Hey guys, welcome back. I hope you are having an amazing day. Let's get right into the stories. The first one is an entitled People Story. It has been years since the incident, and I can finally share my story without fear of repercussions. Life has taken unexpected turns, and I have found myself in a place far from Autumn Estates, the neighborhood controlled by a despised homeowners association. Allow me to delve into the background, providing you with a clearer picture of how my life unraveled. Autumn Estates was once my haven, but the intrusion of the homeowners association disrupted the tranquility I once cherished. Reluctantly, I succumbed to their demands at the behest of my late wife, Annie. The relentless harassment from entitled board members and their judgmental golf cart glares had taken a toll on her. Joining the homeowners association seemed like a compromise to preserve our peace. Then, tragedy struck. Annie was diagnosed with late-stage breast cancer and succumbed to its merciless grip within a mere 3 months. Devastated and lost, I found myself sinking into a deep depression, unable to cope with the loss of my beloved wife and our daughter, who had fallen victim to a drunk driver a decade earlier. Financial hardship soon followed. Unemployed and drowning in bills, I couldn't fulfill my obligations, including the monthly homeowners association dues. Their aggressive tactics escalated, knocking on my door with demands for payment. I humbly pleaded for leniency, explaining the dire circumstances and asking for an extension to get back on my feet. Regrettably, compassion was a luxury they deemed unworthy. In a last-ditch effort, I attended an homeowners association meeting, baring my soul and beseeching them to empathize with my situation. It was an excruciating experience, a heart-wrenching plea met with callous laughter. Except for one or two board members who displayed a shred of humanity, the rest remained resolute, unyielding to my recent loss. Within the same week, I received a cold legal notice from the Homeowners Association's attorney, threatening court action if I failed to settle the outstanding dues within a mere 10 days. Overwhelmed and desperately seeking a resolution, I scraped together 2/3 of the amount, hoping they would show mercy. But mercy was an alien concept to these individuals. They demanded full payment, refusing to accept anything less. Cornered and defeated, I found myself in a courtroom, represented by an ineffective lawyer, while the judge displayed little sympathy for my plight. Inevitably, the judge ordered me to pay the Homeowners Association's exorbitant fees. Though I could only offer what I had, it fell short, and they granted me a meager 30-day extension. My debts piled higher, reaching an insurmountable peak, compounded by medical bills from my wife's illness, towering like a monument of despair. And then, the crushing blow came. The Homeowners Association placed a lien on my house, preparing to sell it and evict me should I fail to settle the entire sum. Panic seized my heart. I had no family, no safety net to catch me if I fell. Where would I go after being cast onto the streets? 15 years of memories saturated those walls, memories I wasn't ready to relinquish, but it seemed I had no choice. The weight of the lien loomed over me, time slipping through my fingers like grains of sand. Frenzied attempts to gather funds proved futile. I was drowning in debt, my credit maxed out. With no alternative, I informed the Homeowners Association of my inability to pay, and the eviction date was set, a swift end to my time in that house accompanied by the extinguishing of hope. 2 days remained before the eviction, and I found solace at the bottom of a bottle. It was a destructive coping mechanism, albeit a temporary respite from the harsh reality. In my inebriated state, I stumbled upon a news story of a man who, consumed by anger and desperation, set fire to his home and disappeared. In that fleeting moment, it struck me as a twisted but fitting solution. A dark humor laced my thoughts, and I hatched a plan. Unconsciousness swallowed me shortly after that revelation. When I awoke the following morning, the idea still burned bright within me. It was my last day in the house, my final chance to defy the Homeowners Association is tyranny. Bitterness and anger simmered within me, fueling a resolve I had never known. Hastily, I booked a plane ticket to a destination in South America, using the meager savings I had managed to scrape together. The final preparations ensued. I drenched my living room in gasoline, creating a trail that snaked through the hallway and up the stairs. The plane's departure loomed a mere hour and a half away, a narrow window for my act of defiance. Igniting the fire, I sped away from my former sanctuary. Approximately 5 miles down the road, a column of black smoke greeted my eyes, rising ominously from the heart of my neighborhood. Sirens blared in the distance. fire trucks racing towards the inferno I had unleashed. A sense of liberation mixed with the pangs of grief as I drove towards the resting place of my late wife. Placing flowers from the rose bushes she had nurtured, I bid her a final farewell before continuing my journey to the airport. Fortunately, my departure was unhindered by questioning officials, and I boarded the plane, leaving behind the ashes of my past. Life since then has been different, yet a form of respite. The new destination provided a picturesque scene worthy of fairy tales. Exquisite cuisine, vibrant culture, and breathtaking vistas welcomed me each morning. Yet, amidst the beauty, a hollow ache persists, yearning for the shared joy with my departed wife. As for the Homeowners Association, I hold no remorse for the inferno that consumed my former home. Their vindictive actions pushed me to the brink, and in that moment of desperation I chose defiance over surrender. May they reap what they have sown with the remnants of my charred and crumbling house. Update. In the aftermath of the fire, investigations were conducted, but the evidence was insufficient to pinpoint the perpetrator. The Homeowners Association, shrouded in suspicion, faced scrutiny from the community and legal authorities. Multiple lawsuits were filed against the association, revealing their predatory practices and lack of compassion. The once powerful board members crumbled under the weight of public outrage, ultimately dissolving the Homeowners Association and leaving Autumn Estates in a state of chaos and upheaval. The next one is a pro-revenge story. Background. I should start by saying that I don't live in the best area of town, but it wasn't absolutely awful until the summer began, when my next-door neighbors' teenage kids and their friends had nothing better to do than loiter around all day, be loud, and commit petty crimes. The people below my next-door neighbors had a rock thrown through their window. Several neighbors had minor car damage, like dents from them sitting on cars or throwing basketballs around and inevitably hitting cars. These tools would bang on people's doors for the fun of it, and often sit in a large group clogging up the only stairs up to my apartment, and be rude when I would try to step over or around them. They never stood up for a second to let me by. I should add that 2 or 3 families lived next door in a 2-bedroom unit, literally at least 12, 15 people, way over capacity. They also had friends over constantly, and would yell and scream and fight with each other all the time, luckily never too late at night though. Despite all of these nuisances, I never complained about them. Sure, it was obnoxious as hell, but I'm not really a complainer, and I wasn't losing any precious sleep. I'm a pretty easygoing tenant. I pay my rent and bills on time every month. My dog never barks, etc. The events. Unfortunately for my good neighbors and myself, their crimes escalated in severity. They actually broke into my cool downstairs neighbor's place. He caught them red-handed trying to steal his stuff. He called the cops and made a police report and everything, but somehow nothing was done. I suspect it is because he used to be cool with these neighbors and actually looked after and fed some of the kids, so he had a relationship with them and they had been in his place before. Anyway, them breaking into his place really freaked me out because my downstairs neighbor is a huge, scary-looking guy, but is actually super nice, while I am a 22-year-old girl who lives with 2 other girls my age. So, if they would break into his place, I contemplated getting security cameras for my own place after my downstairs neighbor told me what happened to him and showed me his new setup. But unfortunately, before I could, that's when it happened. Days later, when I got up in the morning to go to school, my tire was completely flat. They slashed my tire. I was livid. I had never done anything to any of them. My tires are good quality tires and were brand new, literally 3 weeks old, and a gift from my dad. I barely had the money to replace my slashed tire. As most of you probably know, car insurance and tire warranties don't cover vandalism to tires, so I had to buy the replacement in full. I was so enraged at this point. These craps have been committing crimes, destroying property, and basically getting away with it despite complaints to management and police reports. I swore to my girlfriend and myself that day that I would see to it that these horrible people would get evicted. I didn't care how long it took. I knew it was a matter of time before they did something else that would warrant it. After I filed a police report, I showed my manager the pictures of my clearly slashed tire to file a complaint. He promised if they got one more complaint of property damage, they would be out. I also got that security system I wanted. The revenge. Well, the revenge isn't the most glamorous or exciting revenge. What did I do? I documented everything. Every time they clogged the stairs, which they had been warned about multiple times. Every time they were exceptionally loud, which they had been warned about multiple times as well. Every time they did anything that would count as a violation that I had overlooked in the past. Nope. Duck these people. Easygoing Kunari QT was no more. Not for them. My apartment manager actually encouraged me to report them for every little thing. I suspect because he was sick of these 91 a-holes too. But I knew before I would send him my compiled report, I had to have something good. 2 weeks passed. I hardly saw them around, all quiet on the Western Front, until they finally came back, thinking that they had laid low long enough and the heat was off of them. Since the tire slashing incident, I have been parking at the building across the parking lot instead of right in front of my own building because that's where they always used to hang out. On Sunday, I caught one of the a-holes sitting on the hood of my car talking to a bunch of the others, but they all ran away before I could yell at them to get off of my car. Upon further inspection, I noticed that there was actually a large shallow dent on my hood from them repeatedly sitting on my car. My roommate's car had a similar dent, and I see them sit on my downstairs neighbor's friend's car all the time. Well, today I decided to park right in front of my apartment where I used to park, in full view of my new security system. Lo and behold, footage of them sitting and banging on my car. I sent my manager the angriest email I could muster while still maintaining completely respectful language, with the footage attached, of course. I told him something must be done. I got an email back within minutes, thanking me for notifying him and informing me that he would serve them a notice to vacate tomorrow. They will have 30 days. Duck with my car? Lose your home. As I type this while sipping my fresh iced tea, I can hear those craphead kids playing basketball, probably hitting more cars in the process, and shouting and laughing. I can't help but smile, knowing they won't be laughing for long. The next one is a petty revenge story. I just read a story on here that reminded me of my dad's personal petty revenge story. I was around 10, 12 when this happened. Our old next-door neighbor was a nosy, lazy, stay-at-home mom. She liked to complain about almost everything. My sister, 5 years older, had friends ranging from the same age to a few years older, and they would often come to our house for most of every weekend. Sometimes it would be a couple of friends, others up to 15 or so. The neighbor, surprisingly, never complained about a bunch of teenagers being at our house every weekend, until she decided to, I guess. They never made a lot of noise. My dad worked weekends, and the number one rule was not to keep Dad awake or wake him up. This was during school holidays in summer, so my dad had the following day off. My sister had 3 friends over, and that night all they did was watch a movie. It wasn't loud, Dad couldn't hear it from our veranda. They didn't even stay late. They went home about 9:30. Just after 10 p.m., 2 cops showed up on our doorstep. A noise complaint from our next-door neighbor about a wild party. They were obviously confused, as they were greeted by a grumpy late-30s guy in a dressing gown, book in one hand, smoke in the other. Cup of tea on the table in front of him, just chilling on his veranda instead of the rager they'd been told about. Dad said, "Look, I hate the kids coming here, but tonight, 3 kids were here watching a movie. They left over half an hour ago. I don't know what she's on about." He was pissed. He didn't enjoy our house being the designated hangout place, but as Mom always said, at least we know where our daughter is. But even that night, he wasn't annoyed because it was a small group watching a movie. If it were any other night, he'd be annoyed because they could have just come over and told him if they were being too loud, but don't call the cops because they're watching a movie. Our neighbor would always have afternoon naps at 1 p.m. Her bedroom was 5 meters from our driveway, so pretty close. Our front yard was also huge. Our house was pretty small and sat on over a 1/4 acre. 2/3 of that 1/4 acre was our front yard. Well, the next day the lawn needed mowing. It being summer, our summer temps go into the 40s in Celsius. Dad would normally mow as early as possible in the most efficient way possible. It would normally take him 40 minutes. Not that day. He waited until 12:45 and then he started the mower, and did it in the most convoluted way possible. 2 hours of mowing. Then, being the responsible camper that he is, he decided it was time to count the tent pegs. They're kept in a metal army box. There are about 300 pegs in there because why not, apparently. So out to the driveway, right next to her bedroom window. One peg at a time, he took it out, stood up, and threw it full force at the driveway. Bang, clang, clash, you get the picture. One at a time, he picked them up off the driveway, stood up, and threw them full force into the metal box. Bang, clang, clash. She came out to scowl at him a couple of times, but didn't say a word. He was extra cranky that night due to the probable heat stroke, but he always had such glee when recounting the story. The next one is a petty revenge story. I'm at Walmart and hear a girl, worker 20s, nicely say, "Excuse me, ladies." I see two entitled women, 40s, talking in front of the doors that the workers use to restock the store. The entitled women look at the worker with the disdain of royalty being interrupted by a filthy peasant. The worker, with her empty supply cart, again tells the entitled bees that she needs to get through. Again, the entitled woman brushes her off with pursed lips and a dirty look. Now, I have a particular sensitivity to people mistreating workers, and these bees have disrupted my delicate sensibilities. I walk past the entitled woman, snagging one of the carts full of groceries, and I take off. It takes them a moment to notice before they pursue me. I quickly traverse the back aisle and turn the corner towards the front of the store. One of the entitled women tries to pull the cart away from me, but I make it all the way to the front of the store before letting go. I make a clean getaway and go back to get my cart. Next to the restock doors is the other woman's cart. Now, before you call me the a-hole, I'm fully aware, but these people needed to be taught a lesson, and I'm just the one compelled to step up. I grab the cart and head off to the camping section. I take the cold stuff from the cart. I needed milk and eggs anyway, so bonus. Later, I felt bad that some Walmart worker would have to restock the cart from the camping section. When I went back, the cart was gone. This happened like a year ago, and I didn't think much about it. The other day, I was at a restaurant with my extended family. One of the waitresses kept looking at me. It took me a while to put it together. When she walked past, I said, "Didn't you used to work at Walmart?" She got excited and exclaimed that she thought it was me. I had a haircut and lost some weight since then. She filled me in on the aftermath. The ladies complained to the manager that a guy tried to steal their stuff for no reason. The manager figured there was more to the story. The entitled women wanted the manager to find me and have me arrested. The worker girl told her what really happened and has since become store folklore. I told her I posted the story in Am I the A-hole and got voted the a-hole. She said, "You're not an a-hole, you're a legend." The next one is an entitled parent story. My 22F cousin, 22F, and her family have a beautiful property. Her mom would babysit me during the summers, so I basically grew up there. There are 3 houses with all of her dad's close family living there, which surrounds a big pond. There's a small boat dock, a tennis court, and a pavilion. It's surrounded by forest except for the entrance. It is a totally private property, which means that they have big signs at the front of the entrance that say, "No trespassing." There is also another street sign halfway down the road that says "No trespassing." She and her family get really annoyed when random people come walking down their property and just ignore the signs. To get to the property, you have to go down a sort of long road that goes past a few buildings. When you first turn into the road, there is a Wawa. Americans who live in NJ, Pennsylvania, DE, Maryland, or VA, let me know if you know what that is. It's a deli shop convenience store that has amazing food and coffee, a small strip mall, and an apartment complex. I lived in that complex for about a year, which is when this took place. Sorry about the long description. I just hope that this will give you a good enough picture of the area. Now on to the story. When I moved into that apartment complex, I asked my cousin if I could walk my dog around her property. She, of course, gave me permission. One day after I was done walking my dog around the pond, I was leaving through the front gates, which again had the no trespassing signs. I saw this random woman walking with her young daughter down towards the entrance who I had never seen before. I politely asked her if she knew the family who lived there, and she said no. I then pointed at the big sign and said, "Sorry, it says no trespassing." She then gave me an annoyed face and said, "Well, you were just on their property." I replied, "Yes, I was, and I know the family. I am related to them, and they gave me permission to go down there." She said, "Well, my daughter wants to go down there. Are you saying that she can't explore?" I replied, "If it means that you are trespassing, then yes. I am saying that you and your daughter can't go exploring there." She finally gave out a big, annoyed huff and turned to her daughter and said in a very rude tone, "Sorry, honey, this lady won't let us go down there." They finally turned around and started walking back. I felt like it would be awkward if I started to walk behind them back to my apartment, so I turned around and just walked my dog around the pond one more time and then left after that. The next day, I was with my cousin and I told her about the entitled mom, and she thanked me. She said how annoyed she gets when random people show up. I can relate because I also have a property with no trespassing signs, yet people still walk down it. Honestly, it's probably the most ignored street sign in America. The next one is an entitled parent story. My husband and I are currently vacationing at a 5-star hotel. There are 2 separate pools, one for kids' families, and the Serenity Quiet one for adults. 21 plus is enforced. Both pools are very clearly marked as such by large signs placed around the perimeters of each. We've been here for a few days, and it has been a literal paradise. We have not run into many families' kids, and those that we did see were exceptionally well behaved and attended to by their parents. Until today. We went to the adult pool and got set up on 2 chairs. The pool was in front of us and the hot tub was behind us. It was a tad chilly, so we ventured over to the hot tub where we saw a kid about 7 playing with a ton of Star Wars toys on the steps. Call me a Karen, I don't care, but this set me off. We came to this resort specifically because of the 2 very separate pools with enforced rules. I want to relax. I don't feel like hearing screaming kids on vacation. I went over to the attendant stand and asked if the hot tub was for families, and if so, was there an adults-only hot tub that we might be directed to? I knew the answer, I just didn't want to come across as too aggressive. I was told that the hot tub was indeed for adults only, so I proceeded to tell both pool attendants that there was a child in the hot tub and I didn't know if his parent was nearby. You guys, both pool attendants were basically like, hell no, and I walked very fast over to the hot tub and told a woman who was apparently the mother, EM, of the child that it was adults only, and they had to leave. The kid was told to get out. Crying/screaming ensued, and he and the mom then just sat on the chairs. But wait, there's more. After about 5 and 10 minutes, they were still sitting on the chairs in the adult area, and again the attendant came over and informed them that the area was adults only, and they're not even allowed to sit there even if they're not actively using the hot tub. EM was pissed, angrily packed up their stuff, and both were ushered out of the adults area. I suspect they were there because the kids' pool area was super busy, and EM didn't want to deal with other kids, and/or couldn't score a chair. We tipped the attendants generously on our way out, and are already planning our next vacation here. I wish more businesses would realize that not everyone wants to commingle with families of kids. This individual actually left us a 1-star review on Yelp. The nerve of some people astonishes me. Thank you for watching. I would really appreciate it if you could like the video and subscribe to our channel if you haven't already. We'll see you again tomorrow.